Okay, regularly scheduled work session with Township Board of Supervisors. The agenda for us now will include, we'll start right off with the minor subdivision lot consolidation, regarding, the Wyckoff and Frederick's family. Charlie, is there anything you wanted to take a look at, or?
I think that everything has been done, going through the planning commission, corrections were made in what the engineer requested.
Yeah.
And, everything was cleared off. The, Frederick block will now become conforming, which is always a good thing. And, I think it's all ready to go.
Yeah, we did too, when, as I said, Frank Smith's office was in and dropped off his pretty much his reply to coincide with what our engineer had said. And as you can see there, it is.
Yeah, it just requires, your approval and the signatures for
The Mylars.
the Mylar and stuff we can record.
Wherever they are. Yep. Okay. Yep. Okay, so, again, Surveyor Frank Smith's, office was in. They did, make some, adjustments to the final print, and everything looks like it's in order, so. I'll make a motion that we approve it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Yeah, no, thank you for your patience.
And, I guess Frank will just go back and pick them up after they've been signed,
Amen, and then he'll record them. Yep,
and then
Okay.
we'll do a lot consolidation, will be recorded following that.
yep, yep. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. That's good to know. On the agenda now, do we have a motion to consider transferring $15,000 from our general fund to the park fund for operating expenses?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to authorize chairman to sign the minimum municipal obligation worksheet, Smithfield Township, pension fund. Mr. Barrett did sign that, and, if you want to take a look at it.
Sign it right here.
That I did. I think they only wanted, yeah, so I just wanted you to.
Yeah.
Robert,
Yeah, I'll
Jacob.
make a motion that we authorize the chairman to sign the minimum municipal obligation worksheet.
I'll second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve an initial deposit to First National Bank of Pennsylvania, money market account in the, money market account in the amount of $5,000.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm gonna, we'll go from D to, let's see, E.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get the.
Yeah, it'd be easier to have Ron answer.
Just a little bit on that one, yeah. Okay, so, agenda item E, motion to adopt resolution 451, amending the prior resolutions number 432 and 437, restaurant liquor license transfer. And again, Ron has got this, he did it and he sent it up to us. And I don't think there's very much to it.
Yeah.
So we make the motion to approve it.
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we approve resolution number 451, hopefully for the last time.
Okay, fine, yes. And now, would you like to second that motion?
Either way.
Okay.
Okay, I'll second.
Good.
I think my predecessor got to vote on it one of the time.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
9 months ago. Okay, we do have,
We didn't vote.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Water Gap Partners, we can, we'll wait for Ron to get here and, we can, and here comes Ron as we speak, and that's good. Make sure we get everything. Hey, gentlemen.
How you doing, Ron?
Ron, we did a couple of things, and, actually, your timing is perfect.
Okay.
We're on, item number H. Board of Supervisors agree. Now, we just need a motion to,
Well, let's back up for a second here, because you're not gonna like what I'm gonna have to say
Oh,
on, what is it there? Ordinance number 238. I gave this some thought as I was coming up the road, and although the changes were, in my opinion, changes that are relatively minor that would not require re-advertising, this is a zoning ordinance. You have to go back to Lehigh Valley Planning before you can approve. You've changed it. You've changed the advertised ordinance, which you're entitled to do. But now it's gotta be re-reviewed by planning, and it's gotta be re-reviewed by Lehigh Valley Planning before you can adopt it.
Monroe County Planning.
Oh, yeah, did I say Lehigh Valley? I'm sorry, Monroe County Planning.
Just another municipality that you're working with.
I think, you know, I was hoping we could do it. Yesterday when I was saying, well, it's only a minor changes, and for a regular ordinance, minor changes don't require re-advertising or jumping through any hoops, but this is a zoning change. I don't think you can adopt that ordinance until it gets re-reviewed by Lehigh Valley and Township Planning.
So, what would you?
So if you adopted it already, I'd ask you to.
we did not adopt it.
Oh, okay, you said H, so that's, I thought we were beyond that.
Oh.
We're gonna go to H, but
Okay.
yep.
Okay, so that was the only, other than that, everything else.
So your advice then, Ron, now is
I think we have to table that until the matter gets re-reviewed. I think it's a simple re-review, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, Supervisor Lobenheim added just 2 little items. You know, all the treatment be done in-house and not more than 60 people. So how long would the Monroe County Planning take to review that change, or even our Planning Commission take to review that change? I don't think it takes very long, but until that's done and we hear back from them, I think you have to table that ordinance number 238. And then how that affects the conditional use application and all that stuff, because the ordinance hasn't even been adopted yet, I don't think the conditional use even begins. Because you don't have an adopted ordinance. Well, if it does, I agree with Mr. Lobenheim and Ferrari that it's gotta go back for another re-review on the conditional use, because again, it's a changed ordinance, it's a revised ordinance. Would it take a whole lot of time, and would the, Township Planning Commission and maybe even, Monroe County be scratching their heads, why is this coming back again? But that's the procedure, in my opinion.
So should we move then to table that pending the re-review?
Yes, I would move the table pending re-reviews, and I can get that out tomorrow, that's not a problem.
Okay.
Because it's all done, it's all
So
ready to
moved.
go.
How does that affect our 60 days?
I don't think it starts to even run yet, because you don't have an adopted ordinance yet because of those changes. Now, are they gonna say the 60 days runs from last Wednesday when you adopted it?
Probably,
I
yes.
suppose they can, but I'm gonna say that that's not the case, and if that's what you wanna do, we'll schedule a hearing and deny your petition. Thank you very much.
It would be nice if we could resolve this with
Well, I think they would give us additional time, and
Yeah.
knowing what's happened before, I would be surprised if they did not, but in my opinion, that time doesn't start yet, because we don't have an official ordinance officially adopted.
Right. Well, in our minds, in their minds, it started last Wednesday.
Oh,
so it
I'm
seems
sure.
like there
I'm
should be-
sure.
There should be a meeting of the minds somewhere.
Well, I think those minds could be, Ron, if you,
I will take
contact
care of that. I
Attorney
just
Wolf.
wanted to check that, because yesterday I said, yeah, let's adopt it, and then as I thought about it last night and then again today, I'm just not comfortable with that.
well, it's best to be sure, as you said, and
Well, because
advise.
you know whatever we do is gonna go up.
Okay.
So we might as well make sure that we're doing it correctly and we're not building in, error, if you will.
Okay,
Right.
all right.
All right, so you guys then, approved Wyckoff,
Yep,
that one was acted upon?
Yeah,
I'm
we
assuming
have
that
the
that was
miles,
3-0?
Yes.
Okay, because I just saw Charlie vote outside and he said, you guys approved, so, okay.
We've approved through C.
Okay.
and, C and E, yeah, now we tabled H. So, we're on to, okay, our motion to adopt ordinance 238, and that's the, situation
That's
with
what
the...
we just talked about.
Right.
Yeah,
And
I
then-
would recommend you
right.
table that.
Yeah, then I move to table that pending re-review by the necessary planning commission.
I'll second that motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
What is G, isn't that part of the same thing?
Just the Water Gap Partners conditional use
Well, that's what we
application.
were gonna talk about, is whether or not that starts to run or not. Even if you would have adopted today, let's say, does it start to run today, or does it start to run some other time? And that then also dovetails with H.
Yeah.
Which is the, does a conditional use have to be reviewed by planning commission again? And I think it does, because it's a different conditional use. Again, would it
Right.
take very long? No, but I think it's gotta be re-reviewed by them.
So we could cross off all of these essentially and say,
And it's
hopefully there's a
tabled.
deal to be made.
Right.
Yep.
I would cross off G and H,
Yep.
and
Well, they're
again,
tabled.
table those based upon my contacts.
Gentlemen, I think
Sure.
since I'm here, so we'll automatically, put that on the October 8th planning commission.
I
That'll
think,
be, we'll just say that's gonna be on October 8th.
There's a bunch
Because that's our normal meeting.
Yep.
It'll be the third
Right.
meeting.
The only thing I would say, Scott, is you've got about 3 things on the agenda there. Do you have time for this, or do you wanna make a special work session meeting for it? I've looked at your agenda for the 8th. There's several things on it that could take.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you can always add another one after some reason I have to. I'd rather not schedule a work session one just for a couple of minutes. I'd rather, if we have to, do as much as we possibly can.
get it over.
You know,
with.
just to do it, and then if we need to later in October, do it. Because it's easier it's sure easier on my schedule, I know it's gonna be easier on Michael's and so forth, so.
Well, the only question is, how late can we go, because the clock is gonna be ticking at some point towards those 60 days.
Well, that's why we're,
We can take it early on, this sounds like something that's not gonna be, a major thing, I mean,
Well,
it just has to come back around.
given past history, it always seems to become a major thing.
Yeah, but that's in a different context, it's really, there was more to be major about that, I think, We're not limited to an hour meeting, I mean, we've gone. No, we've gone we've gone 3.
yeah, truly, and everything seems to be in order, at least it's
Yeah.
cut and dried, so you can,
Yeah,
sit down and address it. Your engineer and your, solicitor will be with you, and,
And I also received your email, Robert, about the planning commission having a lot on their plate, so I'm just gonna start sitting down today to look at all these files again and see what's the deadline, what's here, what's there. We did get an extension from, Attorney Williams, it just came in yesterday, on the conditional use for the Verizon, so we now don't have to worry about having that hearing by September 28th, so
that's good.
that gives us a little time. I don't remember the extension date on that, but in any event, I'll get to that so we then know where we are with all those. Because there's Young, there's Trapasso, did we do Trapasso or
We
not?
did
No.
part of it, it wasn't quite done with that.
Young,
But you guys got down the road fairly well on that, I
Natazi.
remember.
Is
Oh, right.
Natazi, if they file something,
Right.
and, was it Young, or did I say Young already?
No,
Yeah.
we got, and
So-
we have, Charlie and the deck in the floodplain.
Okay.
That was the one that we had to, because there wasn't.
Yeah, they filed, Phil
Let's
Natosi.
send back his money, so he does it all in the right way, I don't wanna take his money twice, his filing fee for that. So we should be able to get that out.
Yeah.
He should be.
Well, he's been, the zoning officer again visited the site and told him what the situation is, and he, was told, quite frankly, you're in a floodway, not only a floodplain, and, there's no guarantee either way, that's why we have these hearings. And he said he wanted to go ahead, even though he hasn't submitted anything of substance. So, maybe our CO will have more stuff for you before that meeting of yours. And if not, he sits down and talks to you.
I didn't realize it was a floodway.
I think it is a floodway, but, I guess don't hold me to that. But-
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, not at all. Julia and I actually, we all did, discuss the situation with the pending and the shot clock running. And there are 3 areas that are going to be going to the planning commission, our planning commission.
Okay.
And this now we're saying, Ron, has to go to both planning commissions.
Which one are we talking about?
Now we're back to the ordinance.
Yeah, I mean, definitely has to go to Monroe County Planning, but again, as a courtesy, you should go back to our planning. I'm never quite sure if the local planner must be re-reviewed, but I know the case that's in question definitely says it had to go back to the county review agent.
Could we, instead of that, revisit the vote and take off those conditions and just put them into the conditional use?
No, I think we should wait for the ordinance and adopt it.
You could, but it's still gonna now further, either way, I think the review will not make a big difference because of just the 2 changes. You know, if there were like 20, okay, it might take some time, but
Yeah,
I would be shocked if they don't look at this and say, all right, this is a matter of local concern, thank you very much.
No, it protects, it's in our interest to wait to put those, provisions in the ordinance itself.
And have them reviewed.
Right.
By both, okay, planning commission. Well, we have it on here to discuss sign ordinances, but, I for one, have not really done a lot of, my due diligence, before coming into this. So, we can go there, but we have a gentleman here that, sent a letter of interest in to serve on our planning commission. Our planning commission now is comprised of 7 members, and, we have 2 vacancies. A second applicant, Guy Miller, actually said that because of his work, he just couldn't do it at this time.
Oh, okay.
So, the gentleman who is here to, speak to us about serving on the planning commission, come on up.
While he's coming up, Mr. Chair, did you do the resolution for Smithfield Gateway?
We did.
Yeah. Just make yourself comfortable. Sure, great. Okay. And we have your letter here in our packet. And thank you very much, number one, for, showing your interest and just as importantly, giving up your time to be here. You're talking to the Board of Supervisors. We're a board of 3. Behind you are the chair and co-chair of the planning commissions. And that's as I said, that's a commission of 7 with 2 vacancies. And we're really looking to maintain that board at 7. So you're here now, and, is there anything you'd like to say to us? Any questions you'd like to, Chairman, Attorney Amori, Robert Moses, on either side, but.
Yeah, I was looking for you, that's all right, that's one.
Yeah.
All right.
This is Mr. Kirk, Wickman, is that how you say it? Here's a letter here, Scott.
Yeah, I had it on my Google Drive, but I'm having a hard time pulling it up in here,
Just-
that's right. I should have just printed this thing out.
That's okay, thank you.
If you jump in. All right, sure. All right, so you graduated from the University of Massachusetts School of Law. I did.
A school of what?
Law. Congratulations. We know you need to be tested. Kurt, I'm an attorney in town. I hear you. Are you practicing anywhere yet?
No, the bar is in about 3 weeks.
Okay, so you're just about to, all right.
I'm in the midst of studying, so, yeah.
Last year was during the summer.
Yeah, I just graduated this past May, and then I've been studying for the bar that was supposed to be in July. Since May, and then it was pushed back twice, but now it's due in October.
I don't envy you at all, I can't imagine.
I don't mind in the meeting, but you can handle that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you're obviously.
Yeah,
There's a lot of stuff in this one, so.
Did you grow up here too?
I did grow up here.
Nice. Okay. And if I may ask, how long have you lived here?
Well, I grew up here from like elementary, like my parents lived here and everything. But I went to, I graduated from East and then I went to for undergrad, and then I came home for a year, and then I went to law school in Massachusetts. But I'm back now for the foreseeable future. Saw that there were vacancies. I had done, during school, I took classes, dealing with, like affordable housing, which obviously deals with zoning and stuff like that. And then I also did an internship last semester last summer, with a, committee for a city, and what I did with them was that I was drafting, restriction deeds and, looking into, zoning in that city. So that was.
I was gonna ask you what you did for them, because that's not, usually don't have that kind of experience already yet, so.
Right.
That's what you were doing.
So the committee received money from the state.
Now, tell me how they were structured. Was it similar to the way there was like was there a city council and a planning commission committee type? Is that how they did it?
Yeah, so there were.
It was Massachusetts.
This was in Massachusetts. But
Okay.
this was a, particular committee that was used just for this specific purpose. And what they did was they received money from the state every year, and applicants like the city could apply to, receive funding for either like historic purpose, recreational purposes, or fair housing. And so, it's not a particularly wealthy city.
What town was it?
It was Fall River, Massachusetts.
Fall River, Massachusetts.
So, not particularly, wealthy, so, the person who was the administrative assistant of the committee came to our school and said, we just need like someone who can draft these like documents, and then it'll go through like corporation council within the city. They revise it, review it, whatever, sign off, do whatever, and then they were going to be put into like files with the registry of deeds. And I happened to have a good connection with the professor who was, the person who was contacted, and she said, are you interested in this?
Oh, okay.
Because I do like property related things, and it's just like a general interest of mine. So then when I saw that there was a vacancy, I thought, well, if I'm here and I'm interested, why wouldn't I do it? Or at least,
Oh, okay.
I think Fall River is a really interesting place to have some experience, because.
Is that where the USS, Massachusetts is?
or what?
Is it?
There, it's.
The battleship?
There is a battleship there, yeah.
Does it? Okay, no.
Nice.
Well, I did not expect that.
Lizzie Borden made her own.
Yes, right, it's in Iraq.
That is.
But it's a very diverse community. There are, poor areas of it, and areas that, need all kinds of, renewal. It's just interesting for that reason.
I did not expect anyone to know what that city was, so, yeah.
Oh, you'll be shocked.
Oh, yes.
Kurt, the commission meets second Thursday of every month, meeting, and occasionally we have to meet for that, 3 6 months, work session, that fit into.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, at the moment, I don't have anything on my schedule that's the bar exam, maybe, and I'm sitting obviously in Pennsylvania, it's not obvious, but I am sitting to be licensed in Pennsylvania, and I am not in any situation to be just moving somewhere and just take the end of the year. But I'm looking for work within this area to stay in, like at my first.
That's what I was gonna ask you, what are your plans after? How long will you stick around?
I mean, I think it's difficult, I understand
it's difficult, but it's not like you're gonna be here for 6 months because I'm gonna have a job waiting for me.
I said this before, like, at least a couple of years before I could, like, afford to do anything, so, I mean, it's not, and I don't have any inclination to say, like, oh my God, I'm moving to Pittsburgh in 2 weeks, like, that's not the situation that I'm.
Oh, okay. Michael, anything?
No questions for me. Sounds like an interesting background. Good experience already. Nice to have some more young blood on their fuel, so you.
Kurt, these are fellow, planning commission members. We truly have an excellent planning commission. Really dedicated, intelligent, for the most part, intelligent people who, who serve our, over and beyond. Over and beyond. And Mr. Weslow is a business person in our community, has been for quite some time, impeccable reputation. And, he's here also to assist and just even be a part of this interview. And, I'm impressed.
What part of, law do you practice in?
Actually property, so like even before,
Might get a job
law school,
tonight.
I was working at, a firm dealing with like property, like foreclosure and eviction. So then when I went into law school, I took classes on like building transaction and affordable housing. And like I said, last summer, I did intern with doing like property related things. But my last full year, I was interning with, South Coastal County Legal Services, helping specifically with the managing attorney, of the New Bedford branch doing, fighting like eviction. So I was in court twice a week with the supervising attorney, helping, low-income individuals essentially stay in their home. So yeah, it's like an interest of mine, so then when I saw something, so it's obviously interesting to me, and it's like, what person, what?
You know, your interest in, you know, ability to have a literature, considering this. But as part of that, there has to be a background part of what's driving you to really do this. I mean, is there a particular piece of planning that you're very interested in, that you want to move the needle, so to speak, as far as where this township is at, how policies are, and where it's going? So have you looked at that carefully about the history of where and what the planning commission supervisors have done? I consider they've done a really good job, but not just one person, but, how do you see that?
I think it's very interesting, but I don't think it's, I'm not sure, well, I don't want to say that I don't know where like necessarily the boundaries are, but my mom lives in Delaware Water, I don't want to know if there's like a rehabilitation, there's a whole argument over that, situations of that. Many. In many forms. And I think obviously, like, I don't, like I said, like, I only moved back in July, and I've been studying for the bar that entire time. Yeah. It's not like I've been not to say that anyway, I'm fully aware, but it's things like that, it's just like, oh, interesting, I wanna see what's going on behind. Like, I wanna see, like, instead of just like the people who are putting up those signs, like, I wanna know who the people that are making decisions in Smithfield Township. Like, I wanna be a part of that conversation.
I think it's amazing to see, you know, your level of enthusiasm about this. You know, you don't always get somebody taking their own initiative that you haven't, you know, met before, you know, on this type of thing, so I'm impressed.
I also salute your curiosity about them. I think it's great.
Well, yeah. I think,
It sounds like an episode of Shark Tank, but it's not.
Yeah, we're interviewing them like we're paying them.
well, I thought it was an inquisition there for a minute, but. So, again, this, commission meets on, the second Thursday of the month now. They have work schedules and I believe is that still the last Wednesday or
Yeah, the last Thursday.
last Thursday of the month? That's occasionally as needed.
That's only
Right, meet at 7:00 here in the evening, and, depending on the agenda, it can run anywhere from 45 minutes, an hour to a couple of hours, at least sometimes. So you'll, and that's a good point there, right?
Right. And they're on Zoom too, they're streamed, so if you want to participate at home, if you're away for something, we can do that.
Still have those, yeah. And any information that you need prior to the meeting, we try to get it out so you can at least peruse it, study it, read it, so that you're somewhat prepared when you come in. 90% of the time, you're gonna have our solicitor, your solicitor, and engineer also for guidance. So, and our solicitor, Attorney Karasak is here with us. Yeah.
It's getting close to when the atoms begin to split. Can't have that many in a room. That means we'll sometimes have three different opinions.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Usually there's more than just three different opinions. Yeah, right. Different, well,
Yeah. I know. I got Michael.
Good luck with your exam. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, yeah, it is a recommending board, of course. We take it very seriously, though, and try to adhere to anything they pass along to us as far as their recommendations. Having said that, I'm looking for maybe a recommendation in this joint meeting, and would you, anybody would like to make a motion to appoint this gentleman to our planning commission?
So moved.
Okay, we have a second. So we will accept that, and I, for one, will make a motion that we do appoint you to the.
Before we do that,
planning
can we
commission.
figure out, we don't have the table of all the years. Are we doing this for right now, or are we doing this,
Yeah, we'll have to come back.
are we doing this until January? That's,
something that you guys want to do. I do have the terms in front of me. You guys can reappoint everybody now. We will have to revisit this every January to make sure that we don't slack off. And then at this point, but if you want to reappoint and slate of commission members tonight, we can do that.
and with that, could we do till January, and then we can choose the,
To appoint, there will be 2 terms that expire in 2021.
So you'll have to revisit those 2 terms, but the other terms
Right.
will run over.
I would rather that, we, do all the appointments at our, reorganization meeting in January.
How about even this situation here now?
Well, we could do this until January.
Until January.
Yeah, and then we'll do everything in January.
Sorry, planning, my, realize, probably, background check, probably should do a background check.
Well, that'll be a first for our planning commission, I'll tell that.
Yeah.
If you wanna do one, then I get it, the bar wants to do one too, then you want to.
yeah.
I don't think it's even, it's actually not a, it's not a position where it would be,
Decisions are made.
qualifying.
It's a voluntary, position, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, it could probably be a felony. And it would be I don't think there's anything in the municipal planning code that says what we're doing, come to think of it, I never even thought of it.
No, the vetting is what we did tonight, in the most part. I don't know how extensive the background check would be, where you'd go, what you'd want, but he's given us his resumes and it's a chronological order of being,
Well, I would
getting going.
appointing to, now until January, and then
Yeah.
visit all of the appointments in January at our reorganization meeting.
Ron, will we run into any
I don't.
potential issues if we appoint one person to our planning commission and leave the others unappointed?
No, the other ones are not appointed yet, are they?
At will.
Yep. Right.
I would say that there should be at least a motion made, if the other ones, if their terms have expired, that at least all the city planning commission member terms are at least ad hoc until January of 2021, and then terms will be re-reviewed and staggered at that time.
That would be what that's what I like, I think that makes sense.
Okay.
And as to the background thing, and just let me put in my 2 cents there, you've not asked it for anyone else, so I don't think it should be asked here. But if you wanna do that, develop a policy, adopt a policy that's uniform throughout, and then you can do it.
Well, that would exclude having felons. They have a really interesting point of view.
I'm fine with appointing the current five members and.
That's a policy call, that's not a legal call, whatever you guys wanna do, you can do.
I think we should just appoint, Kurt and our five sitting members to January then.
Amen. And to be readdressed at the reorg meeting.
Right.
Okay.
So,
Julia, is that?
Is that your motion, Jacob?
oh, okay, well, I was gonna say, since Brian made that, if he wants to amend his, then I would second that as his motion.
Okay, then that'll be a motion I made and, was seconded. So, actually then, you are now a member of the
Wait, hold on, you still need to vote.
planning commission. I know that, while you're typing, I'm watching you.
Okay.
Okay, all right, so we have a motion by Barrett, seconded by Jacob. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, congratulations.
Welcome.
Nice to meet you.
I have a question. Can a supervisor remove planning commission member at any time?
It takes an act of, honest to God, the U.S., Congress.
Wait, sorry, you said
Not a planning commission member.
The Board of Supervisors remove a planning commission.
Correct, I guess.
Yeah,
Or can the elected supervisors as a whole, I assume they can remove a planning commission member at any time?
No, we had a problem with
You have to have a hearing.
Can I speak to this?
Okay, supervisors can only be removed by an act of Congress.
Correct.
However, planning commissioners are sitting different, they are not elected officials. So as an appointed official, they can be removed for malfeasance, nonfeasance, misfeasance.
And that's been taken out of the code.
There has to be,
That language has been
not that I know
taken
of.
out of the code,
Not
yeah.
that I know of.
If I can step in here,
Okay.
According to Article 3, Section 4 of the Planning Commission bylaws, any member of the Planning Commission may be removed for malfeasance, misfeasance, nonfeasance,
Yep.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The Board of Supervisors has to give the member 15 days' notice of the intent to take such a vote. Non-attendance of 3 successive regular meetings or more than 6 meetings or work sessions in any year without prior notification of reasonable cause to the chairperson shall be considered cause for just removal. Attendance shall be tracked by the secretary. The commission may recommend removal of a member for non-attendance or other just cause after an affirmative vote of 3 members or a majority of the members present, whichever is greater.
Cool, thanks, I was just curious.
And again, only because of personal experiences, we did go through this procedure, and the person who is going to be, asked to, no longer serve has their own rights, Ron, correct? And they
They have
can
a right to come to the hearing that's set by the Board of Supervisors and present their petition. Now, whether or not they have a right to appeal beyond that to common police court, they probably do.
I even heard that they might even have the right to counsel, paid for by us. But anyway, what are we doing here?
We're going down a road that was open.
Yeah,
I was wondering, what, talk about everybody.
Yeah, okay. All right, so that's where we are. The motion was made, Julia?
Motion was made to appoint Kurt and the 5 sitting members until January, at what point the terms will be staggered. Jacob Fry seconded, all in favor, motion carries.
Okay. Good.
Scott, so you find out what good that, and then Scott was waiting for his stuff, and the technology, or just you said it was November, right? December. I couldn't remember exactly what it was. Well, you haven't gotten any time. It was the last time I ever took a test. I've never taken another test after that. Welcome. If you
Yes.
would please, make sure you give to us your, email address, so I have it, because I need to hang it on my own email list for when I send around the things, for the planning commission. I do this, I have a planning commission list, and a planning commission list, plus supervisors and professionals, for when we send things around. Okay? First.
Thank you.
Amen.
We're having another attorney.
Kurt, thank you very much. agenda. Continue, we have bills to be paid. Jacob, I took a quick look at them. Did you go through them also?
I did. Nothing out of the ordinary, and includes, one payroll.
And the commission, all right. The board should know that you'll probably have my bill for August next week. My bookkeeper has got a new bookkeeping system that she's learning, and now all my bills are backed up, but you'll have mine for next week, hopefully.
Okay. We have a motion J, motion to authorize the chairman to sign the coronavirus refund recipient agreement.
Yes, so we got paperwork from the county yesterday, related to the county block grant for COVID-19. We received $23,735.84. And if you're okay to sign this, we can send this back to them and get our funds.
Which is good news, thank you very much. That was a scramble, very little notice.
It's been, 8 hours to work on that one, yes.
I bet, yeah. So, again, they're gonna come back to us, and what we're doing now is seeing is any additional, causes by, the storm, the flood, the wind, whatever. Even if you're driving home, you say, oh my God, we got a washout on Music Center Road, let us know, we'll report it. Okay. Jacob, did you get to make the motion to pay the bills and the amount?
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Can we actually circle back? We still need the motion to authorize to sign the agreement for the coronavirus relief.
I thought we just made that motion, okay? I'll make the motion that we do sign the agreement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Did we approve our minutes?
We can do that in 2 seconds.
We're gonna do that then.
But, since we just went over the bills, then, the only other thing that was large is the highway fund, and that's because they, paid the invoices for quite a bit of, in-house paving. So I'll make a motion then that we pay all the bills in the amount of $106,863.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the minutes are in here for our, work session on September 9th, 2020. And, they look fine to me. I'll make a motion that we approve those minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we've pretty much gone through the agenda items. Now we're to the point where, a brief discussion possibly on sign ordinance. Bob, I thank you for stopping, 2 reasons, to meet our new member, and the situation with the signage. I don't know if we had a couple of different ordinances that we shared. I think, Julia, you actually sent out a couple to us, and, I had one, I think maybe Scott Moy did it also. So, are you guys ready to jump into this right now, or?
We can do a bit of it. We can get started on a bit of it here before I have to get rolling.
Yeah, and the time is becoming of the essence too.
The only reason I say that I was informed today, apparently we have things to bring down to my daughter in the rating.
Oh.
I did not know that.
Fun.
Until lunchtime.
At Moravia.
Right, Jen said, oh, we're going down. I will say the one thing that I did send around, that's why I wanted to clarify with you, Rob, because we went like this at each other. We went like this, not that the leads are, we were talking before about signage and some things we liked, some things we didn't like, as I was looking around. I think some of those initial things that we're talking about are still going to be present. I think the omnipresent feather signs and those things, that came out business going on, the same thing. They're all over the place. And when I was looking, I was thinking to myself, what could be an area that would have special features, still have a lot of tourists with residual, and I remember from years ago from going through the Williamsburg area that they managed to have dealt with, signage around the sensitive historic area, or from my perspective, it's more sensitive natural area with the rec area. And not that I am remotely, in any capacity, interested in doing a 45-page sign ordinance. But I think, no, I don't want that, because that's, you know, because it won't get, that's too much to get looked at and too much to get enforced with even what we have anyway. But there were some interesting ideas in that. I like the clarity with some of the sections saying, if a sign it simply says, when a sign becomes dilapidated, the municipality may remove it and charge the owner. Well, that's easy enough to translate into remove it and have some municipal lien, you know, type stuff. I mean, that's the kind of thing that we need a little bit of teeth on. You know, again, as I was driving up Milford Road, there's some, you know, a couple of signs that have nothing in them. There's wire frames left. Well, it's those sorts of things. That's why I passed it around. And they have some nice definitions. Sign blight. That's what. Sign blight, yeah. That's actually as good as anything, yeah.
And then, of course, they'll tell you that they're all grandfathered, and that's why they never tear them down, and that goes over to you guys.
Yeah, well, we may have to get a couple of those, because you can grandfather them until they rust into the ground, I suppose.
Well, if they're not maintained.
They're not maintained, then they're abandoned, as far as I'm concerned. That's not grandfather, if it's an abandoned. It's abandoned, it's not. That falls under the blight. Yeah, well, that's the kind of thing.
We should make it
I
clear.
feel it's very similar to non-conforming uses. After a while, if you're not using a non-conforming use, then you've abandoned it, and you revert back to whatever your normal regulations are. And I'll consider something. No, you said it came in, but you have familiarity with it as well.
Yeah, well, I know they have no McDonald's, no any of that kind of thing, but I don't remember seeing billboards or anything.
Oh, right, some of that may not necessarily apply for us, and some of it may not apply to us under Pennsylvania state law. The other reason I remembered and picked the one in Williamsburg is, again, similar to Massachusetts, they're one of the few Commonwealth states from the formation of the country, and that's a little different. Yeah, it's only Kentucky, Virginia, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, and we're different. Because if the Union dissolves, we stand as separate sovereign entities. That's what Commonwealth is. And so I wanted to at least see if I could see what they did and from that, because I figured it's going to have at least a starting spot of a similar type of scheme as you would do with the municipal planning code. That's why I set that around to take a look. And I like some of their type definitions, and I like simple languages in some of them. It's easy to see. Your sign on your building may be X amount of square feet. But, you know, that's a nice thing to see. It's nice to see it for the developers come in, you know, and are able to put signs on the side of their building.
Well, I think the one thing we all need to focus on most is signs that are near the right of way, signs that are not in the village, but in the corner, because that's where the most blight is. That's where, the most infractions are, whatever we call infractions. But even when you talk about, banners and flutter signs, if you've got a new, Dunkin' Donuts,
Yeah.
it seems like that's okay. If you've got something that's been there for 5 years and it's so faded and old and it's just an eyesore, it shouldn't be there.
Yeah, I'm gonna go buy them. I drove by them on the way in. I'm like, they've been, you know, those feather signs have been there for years. We're like, enough is enough. That's a lot.
Yeah.
You know,
But does our code not right now, the code's not allow, I believe other times only allows for a certain amount of period of time.
Yeah.
In our presence or something. So I think my whole question around this is that it's a question of enforcement. And I think there's lots of signs that are shouldn't be allowed, and they're just not being enforced. And then other places where if you've got a neighbor that doesn't like you, and you're getting reported and you're getting enforced right away. So it's a township where enforcement happens if you have enemies, basically. And it comes back to an important circumstance. I think it should be all or nothing.
It is, although it's difficult to enforce, and one of the suggestions I made was, especially on temporary signs, the date on each one. Pass the date, rip it up. You know?
Yeah, and I don't think that's, I think there's lots of stuff that are coming off their nose is out, but just letting it go until someone finds out.
Yeah, that's why I like the clean language in that one as I started to read it.
not,
but they're in an area that does have, like, if the Dodgers don't have the Donald version, they most certainly, the Williamsburg area most certainly does have, they most certainly have their shopping areas and their Target and their whatever else. And they conform to their sign regs, which still looks like their trademark stuff, but in, perhaps in a better looking tower stick, set up and not 10 businesses in the shopping center. So there were things in it that I said, oh, okay, well, that makes sense, now I see why they're doing that.
you should, just circle them so we can look at
I will do
what you really.
Yeah, I'll do that.
We had a discussion about, for instance, signs, where the road is moved, that's another area of, well, how do you accommodate a merchant who suddenly doesn't have any place to put his sign anymore? I threw in something there, I don't know if you liked it or not, but it was in the direction of saying, well, you have some rights, if you don't have room for your sign, what do we do? Well, we'd have to do something, and I guess every case is different, but it's acknowledging that it's a problem.
I would also love the ability to, instead of just using sticks, to incentivize nicer signs. So if you have a sign that meets certain, we're always talking about how difficult architectural requirements would be, but if it met certain criteria that this township wants to see more of, then it allows more of them or allows something larger. I personally think any sign that is lit, not that is self-emitting light, are tacky, and things that have light shone on them are much nicer and classier, and so maybe there's a way to say, listen, if you're doing this style, you can have two of them, or the size can be larger.
Or maybe,
I don't know if I've seen that.
or maybe we have less stringent, it's because you're doing something that's tasteful as opposed to something that's not. And I just went through this thing with Doug Schreiber. He's going crazy. Well, you can't have a sign that's 4 by 8 in a residential area, and I shot some pictures of signs. They're around there in residential areas, and it really depends on, well, is it tasteful or is it not? If it's got a frame around it and it's nicely done, the size doesn't seem to matter. If it's like a piece of plywood that's nailed up on a post, then it matters. So maybe there's something to it.
How the piece of plywood leaning up against the building that looks like crap,
Yeah.
You can't have it on the side of your building.
Well, I think the idea of incentivizing it is very interesting. I wish we could find some more examples of that somewhere, because it's an interesting idea.
Well, we're in the process, we just keep looking.
We changed the economic development. We really just put in some architecture, we'll put in some broad sort of building guidelines.
Yeah, we incentivized it, you're right.
And we did incentivize it there, and we should.
Less parking if you do so.
Right, yeah,
Less parking restrictions.
A little bit of that we might well be able to do. And I think we also have to get rid of the trucks that don't move.
Get rid of what?
The trucks that don't move.
Yeah.
Well,
Now, I will say this, I did come across it in there, they have to, for example, Williamsburg happened to put it up and it came out, the Williamsburg ordinance, for example, they have to be, of course, regularly used, they must be, registered and inspected, and they have to be in a designated parking space, which is probably how we can do it.
Well, our ordinance, does not allow them now anyway, but we probably could add something to it so that it has more teeth in it.
Well, they were talking about work trucks that have the name of the business on them.
You just park in front of your
We're not
store,
making you park them elsewhere.
They actually use.
But if you're using them, they must be in one of your business's spots, and they have to be registered, they have to be actually used in the business. And I'll point that out in here as something, because I think that also, as you said, it's tacky as hell.
It's not that different from what we already have in ours, but we could make the language, more precise.
I think if we just sort of clean it up and make it clear,
Well, maybe
it's
that
easier for everybody to see.
It makes it easier.
Right, it makes it easier for everybody to see.
It'll make it easier to enforce too, because it allows someone to just say, well, I use that truck, well, then, say, well, I need to go see it.
Well, it has to be inspected. Yeah, so I'll point those things out in there. I'll do that. I'll put that around.
and there's another instance of four different areas just in Smithfield Township where only the trailer is parked, and it's wedged in somewhere, and then somehow it's used for God knows what. And, one of them was down here at the hotel on the side of it when, I forget the name of the company, they just left, by the way. There was a restaurant in there. And then there's another, situation down just before you get into the borough on the left-hand side. I think it's auto collision. And that thing's been stuck in there. State police have been out to talk to them and tell them, you've gotta move it, you're gonna get fined or whatever. And they're having, not trouble, but it's just, then you're going through the system. So the easier we can make it on ourselves. But I just wanna say something, please. Robert has occasionally said, and, some of it makes some sense to me, but a lot of it I'm a little concerned about. The person who is going to put up a business sign on his own process, it behooves him to put up a nice sign. And I'm gonna start taking my camera around, and you're gonna find out that these people who have put up their own signs on their own property, it could be horrendous. That we have to have some kind of control over that. I understand the reasoning. I have a business, I don't wanna put a lousy sign up there. Trust me, we got them all over the darn township.
Well, we should get because I've been photographing, so we should get some examples.
I have a book of it. You want me to get it?
You said the one from Middleton, sorry.
That was just, had me walking by, that's all.
There's a giant inn.
On the 5 mile walk.
Pretty hideous for the township, by the way.
The which what?
Our township has a big inn, Arrow.
Yeah, you need for the cleanup today?
I don't know, there's a big wood sign that I just noticed the first time.
Well,
That's for the
you
cleanup.
noticed cleanup and it has the date on the road, and then when you turn onto, Red Sox Road, that's the direction to go in there.
It says open on it.
One, it says inn, whatever it is.
No, and that tells you where to go, take your
Yeah,
car.
that's off here.
It's cleanup.
Oh, it's just a temporary.
Yeah.
Okay, I just noticed it.
That's one of our road crew artists that did that.
I understand. It speaks to his point though.
Yeah.
Just because, first of all, there's not all business, not all for-profit businesses out there, they're not all there.
I'm amazed at the number of businesses, facilities that have these handwritten, must wear a mask, scribbled on a wall.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, at least go to my.
If I step out,
I got that right there. It's convention change every day.
Yes, I can make sure this is.
Every day.
Okay, 'cause the muting is that one there, and you can just hang up. Okay.
You leave?
Yeah.
No, we're still talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just use the Wednesday afternoon dates, this is tradition.
Yeah. Well, wasn't,
One behind,
calendar. Yeah. No, I know. Yeah, I'm gonna step out at this point, so, call me if you need me to vote to adjourn.
Let me make a suggestion here. As Brian said, let's take pictures, let's circle things with stuff we like, and we'll slowly get a list of it.
The for sale real estate signs are absolutely gorgeous. It looks like framed in, they have these future homes. No, it's not in the ground, it looks like a business, like a permanent, like a funeral home or something almost.
Well, I've noticed some of them now, even in residential, are about, I think, 3x5 or 3x6, they're long, they're ones like a real sign, as you're saying, they don't look temporary.
Just a post on the side.
Yeah.
But I've also said, I mean, I think in some ways they're too restrictive as well. And I know for our own business.
Oh, you're the one you can't see.
Well, Jimmy Keystone, because it's in a residential zone, is allowed limited signage. And because of that, and because of where the building is, I only sign for half the traffic. If you pass it, you've already missed the entrance, and you're done. So by the time you see the sign, you've already missed the restaurant, and you can go.
See, that's the kind of thing that we're talking about addressing. You were saying there's a problem with a property that had a problem.
because there's no other way.
we're not allowed to have the sign on the side of the building. Now, we took the sign down and sitting down.
I know, I've seen it. It's pretty absurd that you can't have a sign on both sides of the building.
I think what we're almost thinking in that respect is, you know, we're almost saying is giving them some relief without having to go through the owner's variance process, is really what we're
Yeah,
talking about.
exactly.
And I think we can do that.
I do too.
I think we can do that. I mean, there should be, I mean,
Or you can, if he's going through a process to say, listen, we think this is legit, and that's okay. I mean, for us, it's just, we can't do anything.
now, in terms of relative space, you know whatever Jim and Keith is gonna put up is going to be tasteful, because
Maybe, you don't necessarily, I'm not gonna speak for my father.
you know, for a lot of years, it takes you writing this thing. But it's true, though. No, it's true. You're not worried about Tony, Jim and Keith, you're not worried about those. What you're worried about is hoping to bring some visual pleasure to the parts that have, you know, issues.
Well, you don't want.
And that's the incentive part of it.
And that's the incentivizing part of it.
40 other flags for the used car dealership,
Yeah.
you might have.
I think it's starting from the point with a business, you know, with somebody, what they do on their property, with any business, say, okay, these are the things you can do. The can'ts are out here when you violate
Right.
this, but there's a lot of cans, and you can do that. You can put up a sign in any face of the building, but it's one sign. You can't put a sign on the parapet of the building.
Over the top, yeah.
You can't do this, but within the cans, there's a lot of things you can do, so a business owner can feel, along with what we did in the ED zone, this is a place where it's easy to do business, rather than hard.
And again, so you offer the incentives, but what I do say, it can't be a wildcat situation where we literally abandon our sign ordinance and say that, as I said earlier, that, it behooves the business to do it on their own. They must do a good job, and it doesn't follow.
Brian, if you read what I wrote,
Yeah,
it really follows pretty much everything we had outside of the building itself.
I read what you
And the
wrote.
building itself is where I'm trying to get
It's
some
just,
more leeway.
again, that one inference.
Well, Doug has the same concern. Brian and Doug, I hear what both you guys are saying. There actually was a lot of work put into it. But let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater, and I understand that, but I also understand that what we presently have is A, not being enforced, B, not being adhered to, and C is probably both ineffective, and D is also in some cases too stringent. So it does need to be revamped. Maybe we don't have to throw it away.
Well,
I agree. It's that, and that's why this is what we're gonna work on. We have a good nucleus. Let's work to.
So maybe that's a question,
Make it
Bob,
ours.
is there a way we can take, because I know you've written a brand new one with the idea, is there a way we can take the spirit of what you've written and see how we can take our current ordinance and start blacklining it and adding to it based on your new ordinance?
what you'll find is, most of it is just the old ordinance. What I've done is, in a few areas like construction signs, I've left it out because it just seems so irrelevant to, I mean, where do we have construction zones where it matters anymore? Why are we worrying about temporary construction sites? That, stuff like that, I just was puzzling over.
Well, I'm thinking about the quote-unquote quarries, well,
But it is what it is, they're not building any more quarries. And so, and the area where I
Not yet.
really felt that we had, too much, verbiage and too many rules was really what people do on their property, on their buildings. Not on what they do on the signs that are outside their buildings, but what they do in the signs that are on their buildings. So that's an area to look at. And I think you, as a businessman now, have a real interesting point of view that might have been different than before, because you're dealing with this. You can see why the Gem and Keystone needs a sign, and there's no reason in the world why it shouldn't have one.
Well, Robert, do you have a second?
We have to give consideration to some businesses that, really depend upon that drive-by business. And that, you know, we are a tourist industry here in a lot of degree, and so we have traffic. And if somebody's driving by and of that signage is, gotta catch them as they're driving by, otherwise that business just is gonna not thrive. Let the locals, everybody goes to it. So, you know, that's part of what I think we do have to think about how to make that work in a tasteful way. Don't want the signage behind your entrance, because then it's too late. Especially if you got 5 lanes of traffic.
Yeah.
A key part of that is the businesses that are either non-conforming
Take care, be
or
safe.
non-conforming. Non-conforming spaces, which I would say is not necessarily either the owner or the building's fault, that it was, when it was first built, it was allowed to be, very close to the road. So we just have to be careful of those where, then you can have it within, within a certain distance of the road, but then if that's where the building is, then you're meaning, well, that building can't have that one. So then and I'm thinking, again, the example of the Jim Keystone one is close to the road, so the only way it could have one that was the right distance from the road is to be past the building in one direction. So it makes the ability to have a standard sign not possible. So maybe there can be some way we can have in there. I'm not trying to make exceptions just for my business, obviously, but.
No, I think that's absolutely right. As we were saying with Bob's problem, that, what happens when the road is wide and suddenly you're put in a position where you can't have it where you had it before? We've got to do something about that too.
Yeah.
And as far as enforcement, my feeling is, all we need is rules that can be enforced. We can't have things where you need a special person who's gonna spend all his time just going around enforcing. We don't have the personnel, but there's certain simple rules that we could have for enforcement, and also where any zoning officer going down the street could eyeball things and say that that's out, that's in, that's out, and be able to do it pretty easily.
Again, I gave Scott the booklet I promised I'd get out to everybody. He's gonna take a look at it. It was well done. Actually, Doug Scriver did it. And it can show mostly the bad as opposed to the good. Smithfield Township signage, the whole works together.
So help me out. The process for amending an ordinance, you need formal hearing, and you need a certain amount of time.
If we're gonna
If it's just an amendment of an ordinance.
if we're gonna amend it, well, we're going through that now, and, Ron, can you?
Well, it makes a difference if it's a subdivision ordinance, or a zoning ordinance, or a standalone ordinance.
So let's say we want to amend our current sign.
Is it a zoning ordinance or standalone ordinance? Because I don't know that answer.
Our signage is,
Is it part of the zoning ordinance, or is it a
Part of the
separate
zoning ordinance.
standalone ordinance?
I believe it's part of the.
All right, so
Part of the zoning
if it's part of the zoning ordinance, then you have to, get the amendment reviewed by the Township Planning Commission and by the Monroe County Planning Commission. And then after that review, there has to be a public hearing by the Board of Supervisors to adopt the ordinance or not adopt the ordinance, or adopt it with changes. If they are adopting it with changes, then it has to go back for a re-review by the Township Planning Commission and by the Monroe County Planning Commission. However many times it changes, that's how many times it has to go back for a re-review.
So obviously, that's annoying, long.
Well, we would have to have our gear together before we started that, because
What I was gonna say.
you don't wanna revisit, Michael.
What I hoping, I know, the ED took how many years for us to get that into place? I'm just saying, I hope it doesn't have to be a multi-year process, whereas I feel like if there was 4 parts of the signage ordinance that, that addressed the vehicles, that addressed the blight, that addressed, the malls, restaurants in whatever it was, to make, there were like 4 or 5 things that we could all agree on, that could be just amendments to the current one, and we could probably move that along further. Now, it doesn't mean we're throwing away what you did, Robert, in terms of these other things, because then we can keep working on them. But it means that maybe we could have some quick wins early on. That's just my thought, because then maybe it can be done in 3 months, we have some.
We still have to go through the process. And again, what I'm saying, Michael, was so that we can do as much as we can, so that when we go back to the planning commission, we don't have to go, oh my goodness, we've got 2 or 3 other items, let's go back again, start the whole process. So, 4 items, let's target them, priority on them.
And that doesn't mean, you can move those forward, and then do more later, if you're like, you know what, we really should have done this, you don't have to start over again, like, you are starting over again with those two.
Yes, you are.
But you're not have to revisiting one or four you already did.
Right, right.
But I guess that's just what I'm saying.
And all I'm saying to you is, I would rather see, what I'm saying to you, very simply, is that, haste would be the worst way to do it. Let's get it done. I've got a priority. I've got a special interest. I've got something I need to have done. Let's do it so that we cover a good percentage of what we really want to cover. And that's not going to take a lot of time. Just sit in there as we did do, roll up our sleeves, pick a part of what we're going to work on, and just make it work.
What I would recommend is something similar to what we did in the ED zone, only that they speed it up because we don't have as much to worry about it. So just saying,
Right.
sketch out everything we want. Make a document that's sort of a sketch. The same thing we did there. Let's give it to Judy Goldstein at
But that, I will say that, I'm actually advocating for the opposite of that, because that was,
Yeah.
throw out all that and do something brand new. What I'm saying
Let's
is-
do it in-house.
No, what I'm saying is, if you don't have a problem with the construction thing, then just leave the construction section.
Yeah.
Well, but you're modifying it anyway. My only point is, once you modify it, sketch it out, whether it's in-house or out, get a document that is gonna, be able to be approved by the county planning commission, our county commission, so it can sail through, so we don't have a lot of these continual, edits to it.
Amen. Yeah.
And then we do it.
Can I tell you,
What, you know,
being on one
another
board
approach to this is
Really?
and, they
She left. She's a partner, was.
And another partner left. I'll tell you.
So why don't we approach it in the, you know, we realize there needs to be change.
Yep.
We all have different ideas of what it is. And get familiar with our current ordinance. And I think taking the low-hanging fruit or the things that we can have some small wins is a very good idea. But couple that with the bigger picture, understanding what that big umbrella really is.
Yeah.
And whatever those elements are that we can have some wins with, look at that and say, now, how do we want to make those so that when we get to the big umbrella, it'll still be in conformity, we don't have to change those going forward. So I would look at the real sore spots in our community and some of the areas that will be impacted, shortly by various construction activities and stuff, and say, now, those areas need assistance and direction today. Let's find out what that should be at, see how that would be folded into a much bigger picture. That would be my approach. I think probably what we're talking about here too.
And I think too, Robert, so we go back and we take our ordinance, each one of us take the ordinance home.
Yeah.
And then come back. Now, Robert spent a lot of time on it, and he did it at the synopsis of what he had suggested.
And remember, most of what I've got there is what we already have.
Right, start with
Yeah.
what you have, right.
So I think maybe that would be ideal. I know Scott would be, certainly willing to do it. And as, Michael said, we don't want this to go for 2 years. It doesn't make sense.
Actually, we're looking at augmenting current work versus completely read but do one. Now, we'll take a lot of time to do this stuff, it's probably be more open to this law.
But we are,
He doesn't want to throw away
Michael, we are in fact amending, whatever we call it.
I
Because
know it's an amendment.
what I took was what we had, it changed a few areas, but it's really what we had. So it's really an amendment. Whatever we decide on, it's really an amendment.
And then the specifics, we're all gonna be impacted. Robert, you're gonna be impacted, bigger
Do we have the
companies,
ordinance in editable
it's
format?
gonna be.
I can make it, so.
It's on the website.
That's great, I would make it so. I know, but it's in a PDF format, it's not.
You want it in Word?
I'm just saying, for example, I love to take that ordinance and throwing comments, track changes. That's the way I would.
Okay, well, okay, so I think that we start there, and
Yeah.
we'll get that ordinance to, the entire planning commission, Robert. Maybe, we talked to, Rick Bono. No, I didn't invite Rick Bono.
Those track changes, make
We
sure
talked
that
to
we get those
We did
more
before, but,
changes, we understand all those changes going forward.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
get lost in that real quick, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I just sent you something, oh, I just sent mine, I fixed that, now I gotta gotta go back and, so we did all that type of thing.
Yeah.
I think it's a good tool.
The only other thing I tried to do was put it in simpler language. And I looked at it and said, okay, if I'm a guy coming in here and I wanna open a store, and if I read through this, will I be able to understand it? That's, some of the changes were only that, saying, okay, what's the logic?
Right. And again, that document that, Scott Amore shared with us was pretty good.
Yeah.
Some darn good ideas there. I think we're going to run out of time, and again, I'm saying that because of commitments, and you gentlemen are the ones who have really gone out of your way to give of your time. Thank you, as always.
Look forward to addressing these issues at all.
Yeah.
Can we, instead of, virtually in the file that everybody edits, can we do like a Google Doc that everyone edits the same one, if possible?
Well, you're gonna get the ordinance, and you'll have that ordinance, and it'll be yours to sit home and, when you have time, God
If you
knows.
want another copy of the last draft I did, I can do that to Julie.
That'd be ideal, the copy of both of them. The ordinance as it is,
I mean, we can all read it eventually, so you can have a
Yeah.
live document within the cloud, and everyone can see everyone else's comments.
yeah.
Eventually,
And the other thing I urge you all to do is, when you're going around the township, think about this, when you see something, good or bad, take a picture of it.
I think another road trip, we'll get the van,
Get the van.
like we did a couple of years ago.
And sometimes things improve. I was amazed at the snake farm, now is a new sign, it's actually a nice sign, have you seen it? That was one of the worst, now it's probably one of the better ones.
Did you see the one I sent to everybody, with the woman, out on, Route 9 towards the west end, complaining that, PennDOT's, because of the roundabout, and she's pointing to this sign, which is the ugliest thing I ever saw in my life. How can you do this to me? You're taking it away from me. But,
Let's adjourn, I gotta get out of here for
Yeah.
press.
okay. Okay, so I got a motion to adjourn, and we can still, and the second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks.
I'd like to make a comment while you're walking out. I would like to thank the board, you should make a compliment to your, roadmaster, the way the crew is, trimming the, shoulders and stuff, it looks really good.
Thank you, Bob, thank you. Yeah. And,
Still working down on Washington Street. No, I'm so practiced back in that. I own LGS now, so. How did you do that? I'm doing that.
Are you with, like, Wetzel County, Wetzel?
I'm the original, I'm no longer there.
I knew that. Well, I was a CEO in United Way, accounting for the last.
nice to meet you. Appreciate it, really. An interesting situation that you just sat in, because it's
Soccer night,
We actually know each other. Yeah.
at school.
He's got birds.
He's right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You know, God knows.
Oh, he's right for high school.
Yeah, we went to high school together.
Oh, you're getting.
Yeah. The whole college thing's a little bit different, but, okay, cool.
Same beginning.
So let's not.
Yeah, okay, I've got your Gmail, then I'll send that out to Scott, and then I'll make sure you've got the file.
Great, thank you so much.
No problem, and good luck on your bar exam.